Hi students, how are you? Welcome to Physics Medicine channel by Pratap Naidu. Our next topic is gravitation. So this is theory part. In need point of view, two bits are damn sure from gravitation. And one more point is gravitation. If you are thorough with gravitation, you will be thorough with electrostatics also, because both of them are same here. Gravitational field we will be studying here, and their electrostatic force field. Here gravitational potential, their electrostatic potential. So there is a similarity is there between them. So if you get command on this chapter, damn sure you will be having command on that chapter also. So gravitation, from gravitation we will be getting 2 bits, and from electrostatics, that is electric charges, electric fields, Gauss theorem, and capacitors. From all these topics we will be getting 3 bits, total 5 bits. Since there is similarity, it is better to choose these 2 chapters, but actually for non-mathematical students these 2 chapters seems to be little tough, so better avoid these 2 chapters. But for others, since there is a similarity is there, better to not leave these 2 chapters, gravitation as well as electrostatics. Okay, so let us move ahead. So first one is Newton's law of gravitation. So you know Newton's laws, Newton's first law, that is known as law of inertia, Newton's second law, F equal to ma, and Newton's third law, for every equation there is equal and opposite reaction. Okay, these are Newtonian laws for mechanics part. Here this is Newton's law of gravitation, the one of the 4 basic forces gravitation is. So for this one also Newton has given us a law. It is known as Newton's law of gravitation. What is this law? Suppose if there are 2 point masses here, m1 and m2, both of them they exert forces of attraction on each other, equal and opposite forces. See, m1 is applying force F on m2 and attracting it towards itself, and m2 also in turn is applying the same amount of force F and attracting m1 towards itself. That is, they are obeying Newton's third law. For every action there is equal and opposite reaction, but here we cannot say which is action force and which is reaction force, because both of them they act simultaneously, right? So what is this law? This law, what this law is telling us? Force, it is found that according to this law, the gravitational force is directly proportional to the product of the masses, and it is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Hence this Newton's law of gravitation, it is also known as the inverse square law. Okay, the same thing we find in electrostatics in second year. So these are known as inverse square laws, because they are inversely proportional to the square of the distances. Therefore here gravitational force is found to be directly proportional to m1 m2 by r square here. So removing the proportionality symbol, we are getting F equal to capital G into m1 m2 by r square, where capital G is known as the universal gravitational constant. Okay, and its value is given as 6.67 to 10 power minus 11, 6.67 into 10 power minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square. Okay, so this is universal of gravitation. And one more thing is the value of universal gravitation constant G here. So both of them are important. Next, some important points regarding gravitational force. One is the gravitational force is always attractive. It is always attractive in nature, and it is independent of the medium between the particles. Okay, next one is it is independent of the presence of other particles. So a third particle cannot influence the force between 2 particles. That is the superposition principle. So gravitational law obeys the superposition principle. Gravitational force obeys the superposition principle. The next one is it is a conservative force. Gravitational force is a conservative force. That is, work done by gravitational force, it is independent of path. Okay, it just depends on initial and final states of the body. Next one is the gravitational force. The formula for of a gravitational force is valid for point masses only. It is not valid for bulk objects. It is valid for point masses only. You know, Newton's laws are applicable only for point masses, but we are applying to bulk bodies, considering their entire mass to be concentrated at their center of mass. So we are considering point masses. Then only we are applying Newton's laws. Okay, right. Next one is the acceleration due to gravity, small g. Now let us find the relation between this is small g and capital G here. See, what is this one? From universal law of gravitation, suppose let us consider earth here, earth whose mass is capital M. On the surface of the earth, let us consider a point mass whose mass is small m here. So now what is the gravitational force acting on this point mass? See here, we should consider earth to be a point mass which is focused at its center, that is at O. So now just imagine there are only 2 point masses, not a large earth and a small point mass here. Let us imagine that there are only 2 point masses. What is the mass of this one? Small m. What is the mass of this earth? Here it is capital M. So earth is now imagined to be a point mass. Now these 2 point masses. So what is the force acting on this point mass due to this earth here? By universal law of gravitation, F equal to G into capital M small m by R square. So what is the acceleration due to gravity? Acceleration due to gravity from Newton's second law, we know F equal to ma, here F equal to mg, therefore G equal to F by m. Okay, G equal to F by m. So this by m, here m goes, so G equal to small g, acceleration due to gravity, G equal to capital G into capital M by R square. What is capital G? Universal law of universal gravitational constant, capital M mass of the earth and capital R radius of the earth. So small g equal to Gm by R square. Okay, next one is variation in the value of G. You know, on the surface of the earth, the acceleration due to gravity is 9.8 meter per second square near the surface of the earth. But as we move up from the surface of the earth, then G value varies, and if we move deep into the earth, then also G value varies here if we move deep into earth. Okay, so not only that, due to Earth's rotation also G value varies, and not only that, due to since earth is not a perfect sphere, that one also influences the value of G. Now let us check how the G value varies here. See here, first one is with height above the surface of the earth. Suppose as if we move from the surface of the earth, how G value varies. So let us consider earth here. This is earth, mass capital M, radius capital R. So let us choose a point mass m at a height h from the surface of the earth. Okay, okay, this is the radius of the earth, this is the height h from the surface of the earth of this point mass, and we are choosing one more thing, that is a small r. Small r is the distance of this point mass chosen from where? Not from the surface of the earth, it is from the center of the earth. So the distance of point mass from the surface of the earth is h, distance of this point mass from the center of the earth is small r here, and capital R is radius of the earth, capital M is mass of the earth. Okay, so what is the force acting on this mass due to this earth here? So now we consider this one as a point mass, and this earth is a point mass which is located at the center. So the force acting on this mass due to this mass, what is this one? F equal to Gmm by R plus h whole square. So this is R, this is h, so R plus h whole square by universal law of gravitation. From Newton's second law, what is the G dash here? So what is G dash? G dash is acceleration due to gravity at this height from the surface of the earth. Okay, on the surface of the earth, let it be some G here, but at a height h, let us suppose that it is G dash. So G dash equal, from Newton's second law, G dash equal to F by M. So from this expression, we are getting G dash equal to Gm by R plus h whole square, that equal to Gm by let us take this R constant here, R square into 1 plus h by R whole square. Here h is very small when compared to radius of the earth. Here h is very small when compared to radius of the earth. You know, radius of the earth is 6,400 kilometers. So h is just like 10 meters, 20 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters, like that. Okay, so from applying this binomial theorem, we will be getting like this: G dash equal to, what is here, Gm by R square is G, no, acceleration due to gravity on the surface of the earth, G by 1 plus h by R whole square. Okay, by Newton's second law, what is the G dash? G dash is the acceleration due to gravity at height h. Okay, G dash equal to F by M by Newton's second law. So this is equal to, what is F here? F is this one, Gmm by R plus h whole square. So G dash equal to Gm by R plus h whole square. This is equal to Gm by R square into, so we are taking here R constant here, so we are getting this much, Gm by R square into 1 plus h by R whole square. So what is g dash? G dash equal to, we are replacing gm by r square is small g. Okay, g dash equal to g by 1 plus h by r whole square. Okay, so applying binomial theorem here. So this, since this h is very small when compared to Kepler, therefore, so since h is very small when compared to Kepler, therefore g dash equal to, applying binomial theorem, we will get this one, g dash equal to g into 1 minus 2h by r. What is h? Height of the point mass m from the surface of the earth. What is Kepler? Radius of the earth. So g dash equal to g into something, 1 minus 2h by r. See, as we are moving from the surface of the earth, okay, as we move away from the surface of the earth, that is, as h increases, then what happens to g dash here? G dash decreases. As h increases, this bracket value decreases, therefore this value decreases, therefore g dash decreases. So as we move from the surface of the earth away from it, g dash, acceleration due to gravity, decreases. So what is its expression here? G dash equal to g into 1 minus 2h by r. Let us express this g dash in terms of small r here. What is small r? Distance from the center of the earth. Okay, so g dash equal to gm by r plus h whole square. You know, g dash equal to gm by r plus h whole square. So take that g dash equal to gm by r plus h whole square, that equal to g into r square by r plus h whole square. So gm equal to gr square. So gr square by r plus h whole square, that equal to g into r square capital R square by small r square here, because r plus h is nothing but small r. So g dash is directly proportional to 1 by r square. That is, as r increases, g dash decreases. See here. Now let us check the variation of g with the depth below the surface of the earth here. So let us consider, let an object of mass m be placed inside the earth at a depth h below the surface of the earth. See, below the surface of the earth at a depth h, let us consider a point mass m. Okay, and this mass m will experience a force only due to this sphere, and it does not experience any force due to this outer region here, this part of sphere, this part of the earth. Okay, so only this part of the earth exerts gravitational force now on this point mass. Okay, the resultant force due to this outer part will become 0. So next one is, now let us express the mass of this inner sphere in terms of mass of earth capital M. So mass of inner sphere m dash equal to density into volume. This is the density. Density is the mass of the earth by volume of the earth into volume of this small sphere is 4 by 3 pi into r minus h whole cube. So we will be getting something here like this. Then by universal law of gravitation, we will be getting some force like this. Then from this one, from Newton's law of gravitation, g dash equal to f by m, that equal to, solving this we will be getting g into 1 minus h by r. Okay, g dash equal to g into 1 minus h by r. See, so that is, as depth h increases, what happens to the value of g? G value decreases. As h increases, this value increases. As this value increases, 1 minus increased value, so this bracket value decreases. So as this bracket value decreases, this RHS completely decreases. That is, the g value decreases as the depth increases. So as we move deeper into the earth, what happens? G value decreases. Here, as we are moving from the surface of the earth into outer space, then also g value is decreasing. And if we are moving deep into the earth from the surface of the earth, then also g value is decreasing. So but in this case, both the decrement is not same here. See here, what is the expression? As we are moving deep into the earth, g dash for at a depth h, g dash equal to g into 1 minus h by r. But at the same distance from the surface of the earth into outer space, we got a g dash equal to g into, where it is, g dash equal to g into 1 minus 2h by r. So there, depth, for depth we are getting 1 minus h by r, for height we are getting 1 minus 2h by r. Okay, so this is the case here. So in which case it is decreasing fast as we are moving into outer space from the surface of the earth. So with height it is decreasing fast than with depth. It is clear. So let us express this in terms of smaller here. So g dash equal to gm by r square into r minus h by r. Putting this r minus h equal to smaller here, we will be getting g dash equal to g by r into small r. So here g dash is directly proportional to r. What is r here? R is the distance from the center of the earth. So here in the case of height, variation of g with height, what is the relation? G dash, it is directly proportional to 1 by r square. Here with the depth, g dash, it is directly proportional to r. So there with respect to r it is decreasing, here with respect to r it is increasing. No need of any confusion here. As we move from the surface of the earth into the sky, then also g decreases. If we move towards the center of the earth, then also g decreases. But in terms of r, if we express in terms of small r, see small r increases, no? In this case this is the small r, in this case this is the small r here. Okay, so here what we are getting here, g dash is directly proportional to r, there g dash is inversely proportional to r square. So what is the graph? So the graph will be like this. For r greater than or equal to r, that is from the surface to outward space. So in this case from here to, yes, if small r is greater than or equal to capital R, that is from here, this is the point corresponding to capital R, that is this point corresponds to surface of the earth. From the surface of the earth, how it is decreasing? It is decreasing, no? Like this. Next one is inside the earth, when small r is less than or equal to r, that is radius is less than the radius of the earth, that is inside the earth, g dash is directly proportional to r, that is g dash is increasing. See, we are taking g dash on y axis and small r on x axis. From here, from center of the earth to the outer surface, g dash value is increasing with small r, because g dash is directly proportional to r, so we are getting a straight line like this. Okay, here we are writing curve like this because g dash is inversely proportional to r square. So this is the graph regarding this one. The variation of g from the center of the earth, this is the variation of the g from the center of the earth towards it is the surface, and continuing from surface to outer atmosphere, like this. From here to, if we go starting from this point to like this, if we go like this, this will be the graph. Initially from the center of the earth to outer surface, it is g dash is increasing. Okay, it is increasing directly proportional to the distance, this distance. As we reach the surface, from surface to into higher altitudes, as we move into higher altitudes, g decreases. Okay, see here we are going in one direction. From this, starting from center of the earth, we are going in one direction only. So from center of the earth to surface, it is increasing. Okay, linearly proportional to distance. This is a distance. From surface to outer altitudes, if we move, in this case it is decreasing. Okay, this is the case here. But see, if we move from surface to outer space, then g value decreases. If we move from surface to towards the center of the earth, then also g value decreases. No need of any confusion here. Okay, right. Next one, due to earth's rotation, you know, earth is rotating like this. So let us consider a point mass m here. This is the radius of the earth. Okay, this is the equator. So this is the phi is the angle of this latitude. This is known as the latitude. The horizontal circles of the earth are known as the latitudes. So this angle gives us the location of this latitude. See, 22 degrees, 23.5 degrees, Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn, you studied in soil studies, no? Okay, in this way. So from this equatorial plane, we will express the latitudes in terms of degrees here. So this latitude is expressed in terms of phi here. Okay, this point mass, let us imagine a point mass on some latitude. This r is the radius of the earth here. So what are the forces acting on this mass? One is the gravitational force due to earth. Okay, from Newton's second law we can apply this one as we can write this one as F equal to mg. So on this one, F equal to mg is acting towards the center. If a particle is here, in this direction. If a particle is here, in this direction. If a particle is, this gravitational force acts between the centers of the 2 point masses. So F equal to mg is one force, and another one is, suppose if we are standing here, this is the earth is rotating, so it is a non-inertial frame of reference, so I have to consider a pseudo force here. It is rotating on this circle. This particle m is rotating on this horizontal circle. One is this force is acting in this direction. So since it is making circular motion, we have to imagine centrifugal force, which is a pseudo force, because this earth is, the rotating earth is a non-inertial frame of reference, so this is the pseudo force here. This is centrifugal force, which acts away from the center of this circle along the radius m omega square r. Okay, so this is the resultant of these two forces here. So finally a resultant force will be acting on this mass in this direction, and the resultant force is given as like this: F equal to root of p square plus q square plus 2pq cos theta, that is parallelogram law vectors. Okay, the resultant vector r equal to root of p square plus q square plus 2pq cos theta, we are applying that one here. So resultant force on this particle is given as F equal to root of mg square. This is one force mg now, another one is m omega square r plus 1 m omega square r whole square plus 2 mg m omega square r cos 180 degrees minus phi here. Angle between these two forces, this one and this one. See here, this entire if this is the phi, this angle is phi, so this angle is 180 degrees minus phi. Okay, so this is the force acting, resultant force. But then what is acceleration due to gravity? G dash equal to F dash by m. Okay, resultant force, let this one, this is F dash here, so F dash by m. So from this we are getting root of g square plus omega power 4 r square minus 2g omega, so on like this. This omega square r square is negligible here, and small r equal to capital R into cos phi. This is the small r here, this small r, and this is capital R. This is angle phi. If this is angle phi, this is angle phi. So this small r equal to capital R into cos phi. So finally solving, what we are getting? G dash equal to g minus omega square r cos square phi. So what is g dash? G dash is the acceleration due to gravity at this position of this point mass. What is g? Acceleration due to gravity on the surface of the earth. This g dash is acceleration due to gravity due to the rotational effect. Okay, and this g is acceleration due to gravity on the surface of the earth. Omega is the angular velocity of the earth's rotation, r is radius of the earth, and phi is this angle here, angle of latitude. So the g dash, it is depending on what here? It is depending on the latitude. So this is the case. So at equator, what is g? Equator is also a latitude only. It is the biggest latitude, it is the largest latitude. So at equator, what is phi value? See, phi value for equator is 0 no? So substituting here in this expression, let us substitute phi equal to 0. So phi equal to 0, cos 0 equal to 1, therefore g dash equal to g minus omega square r. And at poles, so pole means this is pole, this is pole. For pole, what is the angle here? This angle will be 90 degrees. So with respect to this one, this angle is 90 degrees here. So at poles, phi equal to 90 degrees, therefore cos 90 is 0, therefore g dash equal to g. So in which case, at equator or at poles, where acceleration due to gravity is more? At equator, acceleration due to gravity is lesser when compared to that of poles. So thus at equator, g dash is minimum, while at poles g dash is maximum. Between equator and poles at different latitudes, its value varies from equator to poles from minimum to maximum. Right, next one is due to non-sphericity sphericity of the earth. Earth is not a perfect sphere, so the radius of the earth is not constant, it varies. So g is directly proportional to 1 by r square. Small g equal to capital G into capital M by r square. So capital G and capital M is mass of the earth. G is universal constant, it is universal gravitational constant, so both of them are constant. Therefore acceleration due to gravity G is directly proportional to 1 by r square, that is it is inversely proportional to radius square of the earth. So where radius of the earth is minimum, G will be maximum. The value of G is minimum at equator and maximum at poles. So because the radius of the equator is larger compared to the radius of the earth from its center to poles, so the value of G is minimum at equator and maximum at poles. So got it? Okay. Yes, next one is the gravitational field. See, what is a gravitational field? Around any point mass, a field will be created. Here, about a point mass, a gravitational field is created. So in that field, if we want to find its field intensity at any point, so what is the mathematical expression for that one? Gravitational field E bar is equal to F bar by M. This is a mathematical expression for gravitational field. So what is the meaning of it? So it is nothing but the total force acting on total mass M placed at that point. If in the gravitational field, at which point you are going to find the gravitational field intensity, there we will put a point mass M. So now we find the force acting on this point mass M. Okay. So the total force acting by the total mass, that is force per unit mass, gives us gravitational field intensity at that point. Okay. So this is mathematically expressed as E bar equal to F bar by M. Okay. So what is the gravitational field? So it is the force experienced by unit mass at the given point. It is known as gravitational field. So what is the SI unit for gravitational field? Newtons per kg. And gravitational field, it obeys principle of superposition. That is, a gravitational field at a point due to a given mass is not influenced by the presence of other masses. So the net field at any point is given as E bar equal to E1 bar plus E2 bar plus E3 bar plus so on. That is, the gravitational field obeys superposition principle. So next one is the force acting on a mass M placed close to earth is mg. Okay, on the surface of the earth, if any point mass M is placed, what is the force acting on that one? By Newton's second law, it is mg. The earth has created a gravitational field, and this field exerts a force on the mass. Actually, what is applying force on the mass here? Gravitational field of earth is applying force. Okay, because it is only interacting with that mass. The intensity of the field is given by E bar equal to F bar by M. By definition, U bar equal to F bar by M. So what is F bar here? By Newton's second law, mg bar. So mg bar by M. So this is equal to g bar. So E bar equal to g bar. So here note point is there. The intensity of gravitational field and the acceleration due to gravity are two separate physical quantities. Okay, these two are separate physical quantities. This is acceleration and this is gravitational field intensity. Both are two separate physical quantities. But see here, their magnitudes are same in this case, are having equal magnitudes and directions. Okay, and next one. Now, gravitational field due to a point mass. Till now we know what is the basic concept of gravitational field. We have seen. Now what is the gravitational field due to a point mass? See here at O, a point mass capital M is placed. So we want to find the gravitational field intensity. See, one more point is that gravitational field or gravitational field intensity, both of them are same. So now we are interested to find the gravitational field intensity of this point mass M at some point P. Then what we do? We place a point mass at this point P. So which is at a distance R from this mass capital M. Okay. Now what is the force acting on this mass small m here? This is given by universal law of gravitation, F equal to G capital M by R square. So from from the definition of gravitational field intensity, E equal to F by m, that equal to G capital M by R square. So okay, so this is the expression for, or this is gravitational field intensity at a distance r from point mass capital M. So what is gravitational field intensity? E equal to G m by R square. So previously combining the two laws, law of universal law of gravitation as well as the Newton's second law, this expression G equal to G capital M by R square. Acceleration due to gravity equal to G into capital M by R square. So similarly we got the same expression here, because E and G, both of them are same. Okay, E and G, E bar equal to G bar. So here gravitational field intensity due to a point mass at a distance r is given as E equal to Gm by R square. So don't forget, even small g equal to Gm by R square, even gravitational field intensity is also equal to Gm by R square only. Here the direction of field intensity at point P is in which direction? It is towards capital M, in this direction. It is towards capital M in this direction. Okay, next one. Gravitational field due to uniform solid sphere. See, this is a uniform solid sphere. Uniform solid sphere means the mass is distributed uniformly throughout its volume. So let its mass be capital M here, let its radius be capital R here. So here there will be arising three cases. One is a point lying outside the sphere, another one is point lying inside the sphere, another one is a point lying on the surface of the sphere. So for points lying outside the sphere, on the sphere or for points lying outside the sphere, this sphere is considered to be a small point mass. So now you can imagine two point masses. One point mass is capital M here, another point mass is small m here. Okay, so for a point outside the solid sphere, what is gravitational field intensity? E equal to G capital M by R square, where capital M is mass of the solid sphere and R is the distance of the considered point A from the center of the solid sphere. Got it? So in the case of solid sphere and for an outside point, you just imagine two point masses here and separated by distance of smaller here. So from the basic definition you will get E equal to Gm by R square. The same formula, see you are getting E equal to Gm by R square. So for point on the surface of the sphere also the same thing will be applied here, because if we consider a point here, then the distance capital R equal to small r itself. Okay, so we can imagine two point masses, one is at the center, another one is at the surface here, their distance is smaller here. So again the same logic will be applied here. So what if the point mass is taken inside the sphere? Let us check. So if the point mass, let us consider an internal point B. So here what is small r? Small r is less than or equal to capital R, that is the radius of the sphere. So in previous case, small r is in this case small r is greater than or equal to capital R. Okay, since it is lying outside or it is lying on the surface, so it is equal to r or it is greater than capital R. So in this case, okay, what we do here, just we draw a sphere through the given point whose radius is smaller and center O. So like this, we draw a sphere like this. See this one, this now this is the point here which is lying inside the sphere. So now determine the mass of the sphere, the new sphere. Now the given point lies on the circumference of the sphere and thus we proceed as before. Now this point B, it is lying on the circumference of the small sphere whose mass is capital M dash. So previously as how we did here, for a point lying outside the sphere or for a point lying on the surface of the sphere, the formula is same here. So E equal to G capital M by R square. What is capital M here? Capital M is the mass of the sphere. So now the only change is that now the mass of the sphere is not capital M, but instead it is M dash. Okay, so now everything is same except that we should consider a sphere of mass M dash and our considered point is lying on its surface. So here E equal to G M dash by R square. See here we are expressing m dash in terms of the original mass of the sphere capital M. So g m dash by r square is equal to, so we are getting like this after solving. So we can express m dash into m like this using this one. M dash equal to density of the entire sphere into volume of the small sphere. Okay, density of entire sphere is m mass by volume, total mass of the sphere by total volume 4 by 3 pi capital R cube into what is the volume of small sphere, 4 by 3 pi small r cube. So solving this one, we are getting this one. So m dash equal to this much, capital M into small r cube by capital R cube. The same we are substituting here. E equal to g m dash by r square, that equal to g, what is m dash, in the place of m dash we are substituting this one. So finally we are getting E equal to this something. So finally E equal to g capital M into g capital M by r cube into small r. What is capital M? Mass of the original sphere. What is capital R? Radius of the original sphere. What is smaller? The radius of small sphere whose mass is m dash. So from this what we are getting, gravitational field is directly proportional to distance from the center of the original sphere. What is r here? It is the distance from the center of original sphere. Okay, so variation of gravitational field versus r, how it is varying, let us see. See, when it is this expression is for a point lying inside the original sphere. So here when the point lies inside the sphere, E is directly proportional to r. See, E is directly proportional to r. Gravitational field is directly proportional to the distance from the center of the sphere. So that is, as the distance from the center of the sphere increases, see, gravitational field is increasing like this, directly proportional. See, E is taken along y-axis and here r is taken along x-axis, small r. Okay, this is the variable distance. This capital R is constant. It is the radius of the original sphere. So in this case, see here, from here to here, 0 to capital R. What is capital R? Radius of the sphere. From center of the sphere to the surface of the sphere, no? This part represents from the center to surface of the sphere. In this case, E is directly proportional to R here. So we are getting a straight line like this. From surface, if you go outside, then what is the expression there? See, E equal to g m by r square. That is, E is directly proportional to 1 by r square, or E is inversely proportional to r square. So accordingly we are getting this graph, this curved graph, it is inversely proportional to r square. So from this surface, as we are moving outside, as r is increasing outside, so what about the gravitational field here? It is decreasing. How it is decreasing? Is it decreasing proportionally? No, it is decreasing inversely proportional to radius square r square, so distance square r square. Next one, third one is gravitational field due to uniform spherical shell here. See here, spherical shell or hollow sphere. So this is the hollow sphere. For outside point, the logic will be same. This sphere is considered as a point mass at its center O, and everything is same as we did before. So here the expression is E equal to g m by r square, where m is the mass of the hollow sphere and r is the distance of the considered point where we are interested to find gravitational field intensity. So it is at a distance of small r from the center of this sphere. So E equal to g m by r square. It is simple here, and E is inversely proportional to r square. Okay, then at an internal point, that is r is less than capital R. In this case, E equal to 0. Why? Because if we consider internal point here, internal point is lying on a sphere. If you draw a sphere here, this sphere is massless because no sphere is there here, no massive sphere is there. So this point B is lying on a sphere which is massless. So massless means what happens? In the place of capital M, we put 0 here. So E equal to 0. So gravitational field inside a hollow spherical shell, it is 0. So outside the sphere or on the surface of the sphere, E will be gm by r square, original formula. But inside the sphere it is 0. Got it? Next one is, see the graph here. So from center of the sphere 0, from the center of the sphere 0 to a distance to surface of the sphere, there is no graph. So what is the case here? Because here no graph means what? Here this value is 0. Otherwise we can draw graph. This graph lies along x-axis. So in this case the value is 0. Okay. In this case, as r increases, E will be 0 only. E will be 0 till here, but from here to here it is inversely proportional to r square. According to this formula, E equal to Gm by r square. Got it? Next one is gravitational field due to uniform circular ring. Here we are not going to deal with the derivations here. Directly let us remember the formula. So this is a uniform circular ring of mass capital M, of radius R. This is center of the circular ring, and here on its axial line we are choosing a point P where we are interested to find the gravitational field E. So this point P is lying at a distance r, small r, from the center of this circular ring. Okay, so here just memorize this one. E gravitational field at this point P equal to Gm into small r by r square plus r square whole power 3 by 2. This same type of formula again you will find in electrostatics chapter of second year. So there okay, now I am asking you to remember this formula. Now later when I start my new series, I will explain each and everything, each and every derivation. Okay, I will explain each and everything there with the clarity. So for now, since these topics are meant for a revision, just go through this like this. Okay, E equal to Gm into small r by capital R square plus small r square whole power 3 by 2. Just memorize this one. And one more thing. So in this case, suppose from center of the circular ring, as we move along the axis, at which point the gravitational field will be maximum. Let us find it. E is a maximum means what? dE by dr equal to 0. So the change in gravitational field with the change in the distance must be 0. So it must be maximum value, So this is possible when solving this one, derivating this one with r and equating it to 0. We are getting small r equal to r by root 2. So what is capital R here? So what is capital R in this case? Is the radius of the circular ring. So small r equal to capital R by root 2. So E max, in the place of small r, let us substitute this value. We are getting E max equal to 2 Gm by 3 root 3. Otherwise 2 by 3 root 3 into Gm by r square here. So this is the maximum value. Okay. Just see the graph between E versus R graph. So this is R. So R is taken along x-axis, E is taken along y-axis. So here E max, this is E max here. It is varying like this. So graph will be like this. So this is the maximum E value point. E is a maximum when small r equal to r by 2. So it is increasing like this, increasing like this. It is not increasing further. It is again decreasing like this. Okay. So this is gravitational field for circular ring. So next one is gravitational field intensity due to uniform disk at a point on its axis. If this is a disk, so in this case E equal to 2 into Gm small r by r square into, in bracket, 1 by r minus 1 by r square plus r square. Yes. Okay, just memorize this one. E equal to this much. Next one, gravitational potential. Yes, next one is gravitational potential. See here, gravitational potential at a point in a gravitational field is defined as the work done to bring a unit mass from infinity to that point. See here, this is a gravitational field. We are interested to find the potential at this point O. So V naught, that is the potential at this point O is V naught, is equal to how much? So what we do is, just to find the potential at this point, we just do one thing. We bring a unit mass from infinity to this point. See, in this case, how much work is done to bring it from infinity to this point? That value is that value gives us the potential at this point. Okay, so it is nothing but the work done to bring a unit mass from infinity to the required point. It gives us potential at this point. So V naught equal to W infinity to O by M. So work done per unit mass. This is total work done by total mass gives us work done per unit mass, or potential V equal to W by M. So potential at a point equal to work done per unit mass. So here work done is, keep in mind, work done is work done to bring a unit mass from infinity to that required point here. Okay, so here gravitational potential is always negative. Why? Because gravitational force is a conservative force, and the gravitational field is known as a conservative force field. In a conservative force field, the potential at a point is always negative. Okay, so now let us find. So this is the basic definition of potential. It is defined as work done per unit mass. Okay, so now potential due to a point mass here. So let us consider a point mass capital M at a point O. So around this point mass, gravitational field is created. So in this gravitational field, we are interested to find potential at a point P here, which is at a distance R from this mass capital M. Okay, so now we have to find from using the definition. So W work done equal to integral infinity to R f dr. So integral infinity to R, what is f here? Gmm by R square into dr. So this is equal to, solving this one we are getting minus gmm by R here. So Vp minus V infinity, this is equal to minus of W infinity to P by M is equal to Vp minus 0 is equal to minus Gm by R here. So V equal to minus Gm by R. So what you do is, generally first you find work done here to bring it from infinity to this point. Just no need to bother about minus or plus signs here. So V at that point is given as, it is taken as minus of the magnitude you got here in this case. Okay, see, work done equal to, just don't bother, work done equal to, find out, you are getting this magnitude, no? So this magnitude by small m. So this small m cancels here. So you are getting V equal to Gm by R. So just you can write Vp equal to minus Gm by R. See here, V equal to minus Gm by R. Okay, next one is potential of a uniform solid sphere. So this is a uniform solid sphere with a center O with a radius capital R. Here we have to find potential at a different points. The first point is a point outside the sphere, another one is point inside the sphere. For point outside the sphere or point on the surface of the sphere, the expression will be same, and for point inside the sphere we have to find out. See, for point outside the sphere or for point on the surface, this is same logic holds good, the same logic. So we can consider two masses separated by, we can consider a mass m, and from that mass m, our point is P. At this point P, you have to find potential. So what we got here, V, potential at that point, V equal to G into the point capital M by R. What is capital M? Capital M is the mass of the point mass whose gravitational field we are considering. Okay, and this R is the distance from this point mass where we are considering gravitational potential. So based on that logic, so this sphere can be considered as a point mass here. So now due to this point mass, in its field, in its gravitational field at a point A which is at a distance R from its center, we are interested to find gravitational potential. So from this knowledge, what is the expression here? You know, V equal to minus Gm by cap R, small r here. So the same logic holds good here. Therefore V equal to minus Gm by R. Simple. So for a point outside the sphere or for a point on the surface of the sphere, the same logic holds good here. So there is no problem regarding this outside point and surface points. Next one, let us choose inside point here. So in this case, at an internal point B, so here what is the small r here? So always keep in mind the small r is variable here. If you take inside the sphere, it will be less than capital R. If you take outside the sphere, small r is greater than capital R. On the surface, if you take, small r is equal to capital R. So here small r is variable distance, while capital R is the fixed distance, which is the radius of the original sphere. Okay, so in this case, I am writing the formula directly here and not going with any derivations. V equal to minus Gm by 2r cube, 2 capital R cube into 3 capital R square minus small r square. So keep this point in mind. This is the potential inside a sphere, solid sphere, uniform solid sphere whose mass is capital M and whose radius is capital R. Okay, and the smaller is the distance from the center of the solid sphere where we are going to find potential. So it is V equal to minus Gm in this much. Okay, so V is always negative in a conservative force field. Next, at center O, suppose we are interested to find potential at center O. So in this case, what we do? At center O means what is R here? R equal to 0. So at center O, the potential V naught equal to minus 3 Gm by 2R. Okay. Next, when on the surface, what is the small r equal to capital R. So Vc equal to minus Gm by capital R. See, you can use this one for center of the surface. Sorry, from on the surface point, on the surface, gravitational potential V equal to from using this one minus Gm. We cannot change these two. In the place of smaller, we can put capital R. So using this one, we can write this expression. That is, potential on the surface point is given as a minus Gm by capital R. Okay, and no need to substitute R here, R equal to capital R here and solve it and finally getting this one. No need of this one. We can use this one directly in the place of R, because here R equal to capital R we can put here. So for outside point or for a point on the surface, V equal to minus Gm by R, and for inside point V equal to, we are getting this expression. You have to memorize this one. This is little complicated, no? So what is the graph? In this case, the graph is like this. At the center of the sphere, it is minus Gm by R here. At the center of the sphere, it is minus Gm by R, and it is in the shape like this. So this is at on the surface. So surface value on the surface, its value is like this. So this is V naught at the center of the sphere. Its value is like this, minus 3 by 2 Gm by R at this center. At this surface, this is the value at this surface point. See, at a distance R, this is the potential, minus Gm by R. So the graph is like this. As we are moving outside, it is further, its value is increasing, no? So since it is minus, it is further decreasing here like this. Okay. Next, potential due to a uniform thin spherical shell. At external point, R is greater than or equal to, external point means small r is greater than or equal to capital R. So in this case, V equal to minus G capital M by small r, for whether it is a solid sphere or whether it is a spherical shell. So for external point or for a point on the surface, the expressions will be same. It is V equal to minus Gm by small r. So if you want for a surface point, in the place of smaller, you will put capital R. It's enough. Okay. So here at internal point, that is for R less than capital R, V equal to minus Gm by capital R. So don't think, sir, why you told before in the case of gravitational field we got E equal to 0. Here why V is minus Gm by R, why it is not 0 here? So what is this? It is what is the gravitational potential? This is gravitational potential. First you should understand definition. Definitions are crucial. So what is the definition of gravitational potential? It is the work done to bring a unit positive mass from infinity to that point. So we are bringing mass from infinity in this direction, means in this direction. Suppose if this mass capital M is pulling this mass from infinity, if it is bringing it like this from here, like this till here, it is doing some work. But here when it is coming inside the sphere, it is not doing any work, no? Okay, in this case. So therefore here V equal to minus Gm by R, it is not equal to 0. So what is the graph? From center to R, potential, it is equal to minus Gm by capital R only. So to bring it from infinity to this surface, how much work is done per unit mass? Gm by capital R to this surface. Okay, so this is Gm by capital R. And further to move it inside the sphere, it is lying on massless sphere, no, so additional it is not doing any work there, so this much work it is performed. So from 0 to from here to here the potential will be this much, and outside for outside point it will be decreasing like this as it is inversely proportional to R. V is inversely proportional to R, so we are getting for outside points here. For inside points, from center of the sphere, from center of the sphere to surface, its value is constant. At internal point, at any internal point also it is constant, Gm by R. So we are getting a straight line graph which is parallel to x-axis. So as small r is increasing, this potential is not increasing, it is remaining constant here. So okay, it is remaining constant, and later up to surface, from center of the sphere to surface it is remaining constant, and when we are going out of the surface, here we are getting small r, so V is directly proportional to 1 by R, so it is inversely proportionally changing with a small r here. Next one, potential due to a uniform ring. So we are considering a uniform ring of mass Kepler and a radius Kepler, center O here at a distance, let us consider its axis on x-axis. So at a distance x, let us choose a point mass m here. So in this case, V equal to minus G Kepler Gm by root of R square plus R square. At R equal to 0, at the center of the ring, what is the V naught? V naught equal to minus Gm by R. Put R equal to 0, we are getting this expression. So for a uniform ring of mass Kepler and radius Kepler, the potential at any point, let us here I have taken R, no, otherwise let us take this distance as R here, otherwise there will be little confusion here. So we are choosing a point at a distance R here, so therefore V equal to minus Gm by root of R square plus R square. Memorize this expression. So if you want a potential at the center of the ring, just put 0 in the place of R, you will be getting this one, V naught equal to minus Gm by R. So here look at the graph. How is the graph regarding the ring, uniform ring at a distance, what is this, at a center, this is center, at a center of the ring, what is the value? So on this axis we are taking this V, and on this axis we are taking R here. So at the center of the ring it is minus Gm by R. As we are moving away from the center, it is decreasing like this. So on either sides, so this one for this side, this one for this side, it is decreasing only. Okay, so if we consider only one side, it will be like this, it is decreasing. At center it is maximum, as we are moving away it is decreasing here. Got it? Yes. Next one is potential due to uniform disk. Okay, this is disk of mass Kepler, radius Kepler, center O, at a distance R on its axis we are choosing a point P, and here it is V equal to minus 2 Gm by R square into root of R square plus small r square minus small r here. Okay, next topic is relation between gravitational field and gravitational potential. So the relation between potential difference between 2 points and gravitational field is given as dV equal to minus E bar dot dr bar. Okay, this is the result obtained from derivation, and we are not dealing the derivation now. Yes, suppose, so using this relation we can find dV. If E bar equal to Exi cap plus Eyj cap plus Ezk cap, that is gravitational field vector, and if dr bar equal to Dxi cap plus Dyj cap plus Dzk cap, then dV equal to minus Ex dx minus Ey dy minus Ez dz. Suppose if the x and y and z terms remain constant, then dy and dz terms they become 0. Therefore in that case Ex equal to minus dou v by dou x, partial differentiation. When y and z terms are constant, so Ex equal to minus dou v by dx, and remaining two terms become 0. Similarly Ey equal to gravitational field along y-axis is equal to minus dou v by dou y, and Ez equal to minus dou v by dou z. For example, so if the potential is known, the field may be obtained by differentiating the potential. Okay, suppose if potential V equal to x square y plus y cube plus z square x. Okay, in that case Ex equal to minus dou v by dx, that equal to something. Similarly Ey equal to minus dou v by dou y, that equal to something. Ez equal to minus dou v by dou z, that equal to this much. Okay, so if potential is given to us, we can easily find the gravitational field vector there. So E bar equal to, you can take all these things here. This is x component, this is y component, this is z component. So E bar equal to Ex I cap, so this much I cap plus Ey j cap, this much j cap plus Ez k cap, like this. And if field is given to us, the potential can be obtained. How? V R2 bar minus V R1 bar equal to minus integral R1 bar to R2 bar E bar dot dr bar here. Suppose if E bar equal to 3x square I cap plus 2y j cap plus 4z cube k cap. In this, suppose if electric field vector is given to us like this, potential at origin point 0 0 0 is 0 and potential at 1 2 3 is required to be found. So if potential at origin is 0, you have to find potential at this point. So then here V at this point 1 2 3 point minus V 0 0 point is equal to minus of this much, apply this one, minus of here integral initial position to final position. So x components, y component, z component separately. So integral x1 to x2 ex dx plus y1 to y2 ey dy plus integral z1 to z2 ez dz. Okay, so solving this we can get the answer in this way. So here this bar will not be there, sorry, here only the values will be taken here, r1 to r2 here also. Potential at R2 minus potential at R1 is equal to integral of R1 to R2 E bar dot dr bar. So in this way, if electric field is given to us, we can find potential difference between 2 points, and if potential is given to us, we can find electric field here. Okay, next one is gravitational potential energy. So what is gravitational potential energy? The potential energy of a system corresponding to a conservative force is defined as UF minus UI. What is UF? Gravitational potential energy in final condition minus gravitational potential energy in initial condition is equal to minus integral I to F initial stage to final stage F bar dot dr bar here. So the change in potential energy is equal to negative of work done by the internal forces, internal conservative forces actually. This is internal conservative forces. In general, the reference point is at infinity, and at infinity the potential at infinity U infinity is equal to 0. So U potential energy of a system, potential energy is not confined to a single particle, instead it is confined to a system. Okay, so system of particles, U equal to minus integral infinity to R F bar dot dr bar, that equal to minus W. So potential energy is of a system is equal to negative of work done. Negative of work done here, work is done to bring the system to present position. Suppose if you consider some two particles at this distance, suppose we have to bring them to this much closer, then in this case what is the work done to bring them to this much closure? Okay, that work done is stored as the potential energy of the system here. Note, the potential energy of a system is negative for work done by conservative forces in bringing them from initial to present configuration. So let us suppose different massive particles, if they are brought to some finite configuration here, that is the distance of separation is some finite from infinite position, then the potential energy of the system will be negative. Okay, suppose here let us take two particle system, M1 and M2, two masses are there. Suppose they are brought from infinity to a distance of separation of r, then in this case what is the potential energy of this two particle system? It is given as minus g M1 M2 by r. So if three particles are there, then minus g common we are taking. So M1 M2 here, M1 M2 M3 are there. So let us consider two particles at a time here. So m1 m2 ones, m1 m3 ones, and m2 m3 ones. These three particles are brought from infinity to this present configuration here. So in this case, minus g m1 m2 by r1 plus m2 m3 by r2, m1 m2 by r1, distance of separation between them is r1 here, plus m2 m3 by this is r m2 m3, this is r3 actually, this is r3, and plus m3 m1, this is r2, this is r2. So okay, for three particle system we got these three quantities within the brackets here, no? This for three particle system we got these three things in bracket. Suppose for n particle system, number of pairs here how many pairs are there? This is m1 m2 is one pair, m2 m3 is another pair, m1 m3 is another pair. So if there are n particles, for n particle system, number of pairs equal to n into n minus 1 by 2. Okay, suppose here 4 particles are there. So in the bracket how many we will get here? So 4 into 4 minus 1 by 2, that is equal to 6. Okay, this is one set, this is one set, this is one set, these two one set, these two one set, these diagonally opposite masses one set, these diagonally opposite masses one set, total 6 sets will be there. So here 4 pairs of separation L. See this one, what is the separation between these two? L, these two L, these two L, these two L. So 4 pairs of separation L, and what is the separation here? Root 2 L, no? And 2 pairs of separation root 2 L. Therefore what is U here in this case? U equal to minus G m by L into 4. So we are getting 4 sets, therefore m by L into 4 plus m by root L into 2 sets. No, this is the formula. In this case you can easily write the formula regarding any given point masses here. Next one, a sphere is there, a sphere of mass capital M is there. A small mass m is brought from infinity to the surface of the sphere. In this case, what is the potential energy of this configuration here? This is minus g, two masses are there here, minus g capital M into small m by r here. Okay, and suppose if this mass from the surface is taken to a height h, that is to position 2, then in this case what is the potential difference? When it is at surface, when it is on the surface, u1 equal to minus g m by r. When it is taken to this position, then minus u2 equal to minus g m by total distance r plus h. So clearly ut is greater than u1. Okay, why? Because r plus h is greater than r. Since it is denominator, this value is actually lower in magnitude, this is higher in magnitude, but minus sign is there, no? So therefore this is higher. So ut is greater than u1 here. So potential energy in this configuration, when mass is at 2, in this configuration the potential energy is more than when it is at this position 1 here. So what is the change in potential energy? Delta u equal to u2 minus u1. This is equal to, solving this one, we will be getting this much. Okay. So finally we are getting mgh by 1 plus h by r. Since h is very lesser than capital R, so delta u equal to, so this can be neglected here, so this is equal to mgh. Okay, so the change in potential energy is mgh. Okay, this is the case. Now next one is the escape velocity. Escape velocity. What is this escape velocity? So what is the minimum velocity required for an object to leave the Earth's atmosphere, okay, and to move into outer space? So if we give that much velocity, it will not return back, it will move away. So what is that velocity? That velocity is known as escape velocity. So let us see here. So this is Earth. So this is mass of the Earth, this is radius of the Earth, capital R. Suppose this is position 1, this is position 2. The mass is taken from position 1 to position 2 here. See, let a ball is thrown with a velocity v from the surface of the Earth. When it reaches the height h, its velocity becomes v dash. So suppose if you throw a ball with a velocity v, after reaching a height h, let us suppose that its velocity becomes some v dash. Now let us apply the energy conservation between 1 and 2 here. The total mechanical energy at this position is equal to total mechanical energy at this position. Okay, no? That is law of conservation of energy, law of conservation of mechanical energy. So here, what is kinetic energy? Total energy at this position, half mv square. See, this potential energy is negative. Okay, so half mv square minus gmm by r when it is on the surface. This is equal to mechanical energy at this position. How much? Half mv dash square minus gmm by r plus h. So from this one, half mv dash square, kinetic energy at this position, we are taking this one, half mv dash square equal to half mv square minus gmm by this, we are taking this one this side, plus gmm by r plus h. Now the particle will reach maximum height when v dash equal to 0. We know. So when v dash equal to 0, the particle, it is clear that the particle reaches maximum height. If half mv square minus this term, if this term is greater than or equal to 0, this half mv dash square is not equal to 0. Okay, because if v dash is equal to 0, this term is equal to 0. So this entire term must be 0 on RHS side. But this term is not 0, no? This is not 0. So if this is 0, then this must be 0. If this bracket term is greater than or equal to 0, that is, if this is non-zero value, then this is non-zero value. So if this is 0 means this must be 0 here. Okay. So if half mv dash square, this bracket term is greater than or equal to 0, this half mv dash square is not equal to 0. So the particle will not return to Earth, that is, it will escape to Earth's gravitational field if the bracket term is greater than or equal to 0. See here. If it is reaching maximum height means what? It reaches maximum height and it comes back. No? So it is not reaching maximum height, its velocity is not becoming 0 means what? It is moving and moving on. Its velocity is not becoming 0. So the particle will not return to Earth, and that is, it will escape Earth's gravitational field if this bracket term is greater than or equal to 0. So this, from this expression we are getting V is greater than or equal to root over 2gm by r. Okay, so this is equal to root of 2g, 2 small g into capital R. So escape velocity from surface of the Earth is given as escape velocity equal to root over 2 capital G capital M by R, that equal to root of 2 into small g into r. This is approximately equal to 11.2 kilometers per second. So note point is there here. The minimum energy needed to take the particle infinitely away from the Earth is called as binding energy of Earth particle system. Okay, so the minimum energy needed to take the particle infinitely away from the Earth is called as binding energy of Earth particle system, as we see binding energy in chemistry, nuclear binding energy in nuclear physics. Okay, so like that. So therefore binding energy of Earth particle system is gmm by r. So when the particle is on the system, it is not having, when the particle is at rest on the system, on the surface of the Earth, then what is the energy it is possessing? It is not possessing any kinetic energy. It is possessing only this much energy, gmm by r, potential energy. Suppose if we supply that much energy, it can be moving away from, of course, it can leave the Earth and move to infinite distance. Okay. So there are some more about some points about escape velocity. Let me read out. Escape velocity is independent of mass and direction of projection of the body. So it is independent of mass, okay, and also direction of projection also. It is not depending on direction of projection also. So the planet will have, so that is, we can project it at an angle of 10 degrees, or we can project it at an angle of 90 degrees. Let it be any angle. The planet will have atmosphere if the velocity of molecules in its atmosphere, Vrms equal to root over 3RT by m naught, is less than the escape velocity. So any planet, if it is having atmosphere, means the RMS velocity of the gas molecules, air molecules, must be less than escape velocity. On Earth, the VRMS is less than escape velocity. On moon it is greater than escape velocity. So moon has no atmosphere. That is the reason why moon is not having atmosphere and why is having earth is having atmosphere. Okay, let v be the velocity with which a body is projected from a planet. If v is less than escape velocity of that planet, the body will attain a certain maximum height and then may either move in an orbit around the planet or may fall down back to the planet. See here, if a body is thrown with a velocity less than escape velocity, what happens? The body will attain a certain maximum height. It will reach to a certain maximum height. Then it may either move in an orbit around the planet. Two things can happen there. It can move around the planet. It can move in an orbit around the planet, or it may fall down back to the planet. Suppose if the velocity of projection v is greater than escape velocity, the body will move in interplanetary or interstellar space with velocity root of v square minus v square. Okay, in interstellar space it moves with this much velocity, root of v square minus v square. Next topic is the black holes. Black holes. What is a black hole? Let us see. If the escape velocity of a body is equal to the velocity of light, if the escape velocity of a body is equal to velocity of light, then from such bodies nothing can escape. Suppose if a planet is there, suppose for that planet escape velocity is equal to velocity of light, then from that planet nothing can be escaped. Even light also cannot escape, no? So not even light here. Okay, such bodies are called as black holes. Okay, so black holes are those bodies whose escape velocity is equal to that of light. Then even light also cannot escape. Such bodies are called as black bodies. So light cannot escape from those bodies, and if light does not fall on our eye retina, we cannot see that body. That is not visible. Such bodies are called as black bodies here. So in this case, the expression is root over 2gm by r is equal to c here. The escape velocity is given as root over 2gm by r. This is equal to c. C is the speed of light, m is mass of the black hole, and r is the radius of the black hole. Okay. Next one. Motion of planets and satellites. How planets and satellites move. Okay, here first one is Kepler's laws of planetary motion. All planets move in elliptical orbits with the sun at a focus. Okay, it is also known as a law of orbits, not R. It is known as a law of orbits. Kepler's laws of planetary motion, it is known as law of orbits. Sorry, this one is known as the law of orbits. All planets move in elliptical orbits with the sun at a focus. See here, sun is at the focus. Suppose this is a planet, this is moving in this elliptical orbit here. So this law is known as law of orbits. Next one is the radius vector from the sun to the planet sweeps equal area in equal time. That is, the aerial velocity of the planet is constant. Suppose this planet, this sun is at this focus here, a planet is moving. So this is the radius vector of the planet. See, when the planet is far away from the sun, the radius vector is large. Here radius vector, the size is varying continuously. Okay, suppose if the planet is at this position, the radius vector will be very small. But the interesting thing we can notice here is that this radius vector sweeps equal areas in equal time intervals. Okay, this is known as a law of areas. So Kepler's laws consists of two laws. One is law of orbits, where it says that the orbits are not circular, instead they are elliptical orbits. And one more thing is that the radius vectors, the radius vector of the planet, they sweep equal areas in equal time intervals. So aerial velocity is constant here. Aerial velocity equal to dA by dt, that equal to half into dA is expressed as r into v dt. So what is r here? This is r into this is v dt. This gives us dA, this area. So dA by dt equal to half into rv dt by dt. Dt cancels here, so this is equal to half rv. So multiplying this one with m and dividing with m, we are getting mvr by 2m. This is equal to L by 2m because mvr equal to L, angular momentum. So therefore dA by dt equal to L by 2m. So they're equal to constant. So constant aerial velocity is a consequence of conservation of angular momentum. Is a consequence of conservation of angular momentum. Okay, next point. The square of period of revolution t of any planet is proportional to cube of semi-major axis of ellipse. That is, t square is directly proportional to a cube, or t square is directly proportional to a is expressed as r1 plus r2 by 2. So what is r1 here? This is from focus point to this one, perihelion. This is r1 from focus point to ephelion. This is r2. So semi-major axis A equal to this total length by 2, r1 plus r2 by 2. So perihelion is the shortest distance from focus and ephelion is the point of largest distance from focus. Okay, here where A is the semi-major axis, r1 is the shortest distance of planet from sun or perihelion, and r2 is the largest distance of planet from the sun, ephelion. Okay, next one is velocity of planet in elliptical path. So what is the equation of ellipse? X square by a square plus y square by b square equal to 1, where a is semi-major axis and b is semi-minor axis. Here E is eccentricity. E value is given as root of 1 minus b square by a square. So focus, yes, there are two foci here. One is S, another one is S dash. S position is AE comma 0 and S dash position is minus AE 0. Okay, so here sun is there, here this mass is orbiting like this. Okay, now what is v1? Velocity at perihelion and v2 is velocity at ephelion. So v1 equal to root of gm by a is semi-major axis, into 1 plus e by 1 minus e. So this is the maximum velocity. So velocity is maximum at perihelion, that is at the shorter distance from the focus. And what about this one? v2 equal to root of same thing, gm by a into 1 minus e by 1 plus e. Here it is 1 plus e by 1 minus e. Here it is reversed 1 minus e by 1 plus e. Here it is the v minimum. So for motion in elliptical orbits, let us use 2 points here. One is by angular momentum conservation, mv1 r1 equal to mv2 r2. What is v1? Velocity at this position. What is r1? This distance, the distance of this point, perihelion, from the focus. This is equal to mv2 r2. What is v2? Velocity at ephelion. What is r2? The distance of ephelion from focus. Next one is by energy conservation. This is angular momentum conservation. By another one is energy conservation. Here the total mechanical energy at perihelion is equal to total mechanical energy at ephelion. So what is total mechanical energy at perihelion? Kinetic energy plus potential energy. Since potential energy is negative, we get negative here. So half mv1 square kinetic energy, and here what is the potential energy? G capital M into small m by r1. Okay, so this is equal to half mv2 square minus gmm by r2. So let us use these two for solving problems, where m is here, small m is the mass of the earth and capital M is mass of the sun here. Got it? Okay. So next one is motion of satellites, orbital velocity. So how a satellite is orbiting around any given planet, what is its velocity? See here, if a planet is orbiting in a circular orbit, then here mv0 square by r equal to gmm by r square. What is this? This is centripetal force. So who is providing the centripetal force here? Gravitational force is providing the centripetal force. What is the gravitational force acting on this one due to this planet of mass capital M? So G capital M small m by r square. So centripetal force equal to gravitational force. Okay. So from this one solving, we are getting v0 equal to root over small g into capital R square by r plus h. Okay. So here orbital velocity is independent of mass of the satellite and is always along the tangent to the orbit. Okay, so always it is a tangent to the orbit, it is okay, and it is independent of mass. Here no mass is there, no, in this final expression. It is depending only on the radius of the planet Kepler. It is depending on the height above which height from the surface of the planet, and it is acceleration due to gravity at that height. So next one is for satellites close to Earth, that is h is very very less than r. Here in this case this is general expression where h is not very very less than r. So for satellites which are close to Earth, h is very very less than r. In this case v naught equal to root over gm by r. This is equal to root g into Kepler. This is equal to 8 kilometers per second, and v naught equal to root over capital Gm bar. This is equal to ve by root 2. Okay, this is escape velocity by root 2. So orbital velocity equal to 1 by root 2 times of escape velocity. So that is escape velocity equal to root 2 times of orbital velocity. That is, if the speed of an orbiting body is made root 2 times of its initial speed, the body will escape. Okay, because escape velocity is root 2 times of this one, no? Yes. So if we increase the orbiting velocity root 2 times, then what happens? It escapes, because you know angle of projection can be of any angle. Even if the body is projected at any angle, just that escape velocity value is enough, it will just escape. So if any satellite is moving around any planet, if you want to escape that satellite, made to escape it, then just we have to provide a velocity which is equal to root 2 times of that orbiting velocity. Okay. Next one is the time period. It is the time period t. So time period t equal to distance by speed. Distance is perimeter, no, 2 pi r. Okay, what is r here? This is r here, this one, from the center of this planet to this height h. So this is r. So time equal to distance by speed. So 2 pi r by v naught. This is equal to 2 pi r by, we are writing v naught as root over gm by r. So this is equal to this much. Solving here, finally we are getting 2 pi into r plus h whole power 3 by 2 by root of gr square. This is the time period. Time period is also independent of mass of the satellite. See here, no mass is there. Time period is directly proportional to r power 3 by 2. What is the Kepler plus h? This is nothing but small r. So okay, here it is now. Time period is directly proportional to r power 3 by 2, or t square is directly proportional to r cube. So this is Kepler's law of time periods. T square is directly proportional to r cube. See, it is obeying here Kepler's law of periods. R equal to a semi-major axis for elliptical orbit. What is here? What is r here? Here it is radius of this circular orbit, but there r equal to a semi-major axis for elliptical. Okay, for satellites close to Earth, h is very very less than r. Therefore t equal to 2 pi r power 3 by 2 by root over gr square. This is equal to 2 pi into root over r by g. This is equal to 84.6 minutes time period. So for the satellites which are orbiting close to Earth, the time period is 84.6 minutes, or approximately 1.4 hours. If there is a satellite in the equatorial plane rotating in the direction of Earth's rotation, so you know Earth rotates from west to east. So if the satellite also rotates in the same direction, that is from west to east, then for an observer on the Earth, the angular velocity of satellite will be omega s minus omega e. Omega s is the angular velocity of the satellite, and omega e is the angular velocity of Earth. So the time interval between its two consecutive appearances overhead will be t equal to time equal to distance by speed. This is angular distance by angular speed. So 2 pi by omega s minus omega e, that equal to ts te by t minus ts. What is t? Time period of, what is ts? Time period of satellite. T is time period of s rotation. Okay. So if omega s equal to omega e, then t equal to infinity. That is, satellites will appear stationary relative to Earth. Such satellites are called as geostationary satellites. Next, the angular momentum of satellite. What is L equal to mvr? That equal to m into root over gm by r into r, that equal to root of m square g mr. In satellite motion, force is central, so torque is equal to 0, and hence angular momentum of satellite is conserved. Next one, energy of satellite. Kinetic energy equal to half m v naught square. So where v naught is velocity of orbiting satellite, half m v naught square is equal to g capital M small m by 2r. And potential energy equal to minus gmm by r. So total energy E equal to k plus u, that equal to minus gmm by 2r. So k equal to minus E, and potential energy equal to 2 times of total mechanical energy. So kinetic energy equal to negative of total mechanical energy, and potential energy equal to twice that of total mechanical energy. So in this case, when the orbit is when the satellite is orbiting in elliptical path, this is at peridegree, kinetic energy is maximum, potential energy is minimum. At apogee, kinetic energy is minimum and potential energy is maximum here. Okay. Here kinetic energy decreases as r increases, and potential energy increases, as well as total mechanical energy increases as r increases. So next one is the binding energy. Total energy of a satellite in its orbit is negative. Satellite is bound to central body by attractive force, and energy must be supplied to remove it from the orbit to infinity. So if a satellite is rotating in an orbit around any planet, that means its total energy is negative because it is bound to the planet. The energy required to remove the satellite from its orbit to infinity is called as the binding energy of the system. Here binding energy equal to minus of total mechanical energy. So this is equal to g mm by 2r. Next one is the weightlessness. If a body of mass m placed on the surface inside a satellite orbiting around the earth, the forces acting on the mass m are gravitational pull of the earth, which is equal to gmm by r square by universal law of gravitation, and next one is a reaction by the surface of the satellite, that is n here. So by Newton's law, gmm by r square minus n equal to ma. So a is gm by r square. This is the acceleration of the satellite. So n equal to 0, then apparent weight equal to 0. Next one is the geostationary satellite. The satellite which appears stationary relative to earth is called as geostationary satellite. The satellite will always be overhead a particular place on the equator. The time period of geostationary satellite is 24 hours. So t equal to 2 pi r power 3 by 2 by root over gm, that equal to 2 pi into r plus h whole power 3 by 2 by root, what is gm? Gr square. So for geostationary satellite, what is time period of revolution? T equal to 24 hours, and radius of orbit is 4.2 into 10 power 4 kilometers. Height above the surface of the earth, h equal to 3.6 into 10 power 4 kilometers, and orbital velocity v naught equal to 3.08 kilometers per second. So shape of the orbit of the satellite. V naught is orbital velocity, V is escape velocity, V velocity given to the body along the path followed by the V is velocity given to the body along mn in this direction. The path followed by the body will be, so if a satellite is given velocity v in this direction along this path, so what will be, it's a shape of the path here. So if this velocity given v is less than v naught, the satellite does not remain in its circular path, rather it traces a spiral path and ultimately falls on the earth. It will not make a circular path here, it will make a spiral path and finally it falls on the earth. If v equal to v naught, the satellite revolves in circular orbit, so it will be having enough centripetal force provided in case its velocity is equal to v naught here, orbital velocity. If v is greater than v naught but less than escape velocity, the satellite will move in elliptical paths. If v equal to ve, the satellite will move along a hyperbolic path and escape out of gravitational field of earth. Next, some conceptual points here. In case of circular orbits, if force is directly proportional to 1 by r power n and v is directly proportional to root of r power n minus 1 and t square is directly proportional to r power n plus 1. Two particles are moving about their center of mass with the same angular velocity. The center of mass remains stationary. So here this is m1, this is m2. These two particles, this point O is their common center of mass, and if these two particles are moving with the same angular velocity about their common center of mass. In this case, what is the condition here? m1 r1 equal to m2 r2. So m1 r1 is the distance of m1 from the common center of mass. r2 is the distance of m2 from common center of mass. So m1 r1 equal to m2 r2. Next one, m1 omega square r1 equal to m2 omega square r2. Okay, what is m omega square r? It is a centripetal force. So m1 omega square r1 equal to m2 omega square r2, that equal to g m1 m2 by r1 plus r2 whole square. This is equation 2. Solving 1 and 2, we get omega equal to root over gm by r cube, or time period t equal to, because t equal to 2 pi by omega, therefore t equal to 2 pi r power 3 by 2 by root gm, where capital M equal to m1 plus m2 and r equal to r1 plus r2. Angular momentum of the system about center of mass, L equal to I1 plus I2 omega, because L equal to I omega. Okay, here two particles are there, no? Therefore total angular momentum of the system equal to I1 omega plus I2 omega. So I1 plus I2 omega, this is equal to what is this I1 plus I2? L equal to m r square omega. So this is equal to m1 m2 by m1 plus m2 into r square omega, because I equal to mr square. So this is the combined moment of inertia. So m1 m2 by m1 plus m2 r square into omega, that equal to mu r square omega. Mu is known as reduced mass. So m1 m2 by m1 plus m2 is the reduced mass here. So kinetic energy of the system K equal to half m1 m2 by m1 plus m2 into r square omega square, that equal to half mu r square omega square, kinetic energy. And moment of inertia of the system I equal to mu r square. Okay, if single mass is there, what is the moment of inertia of a single particle? mr square. If two particles are rotating about their common center of mass, then moment of inertia of the system is mu r square, where mu is reduced mass given as m1 m2 by m1 plus m2. So mu equal to m1 m2 by m1 plus m2 is reduced mass. So two bodies can be replaced by a single body whose mass is equal to reduced mass. So instead of representing these two mass, we can take a single mass whose mass is equal to mu, and we can apply the concepts for this single mass here. Okay, this gravitation chapter is over.